Okay, so this is week 9 Thursday, semester 2, quarter 3. We're going to go over solving equations. That's a little bit more advanced. So solving equation with reciprocal. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. Number 1 is fairly simple. M is attached to 4. So it's a division. So opposite of a division is going to be a multiplication. So if you want to get rid of that, you just simply times 4 on both sides. So then 4 and the bottom 4 cancels. M is isolated, negative 12. For number 2, negative x is with divided by the 6. So if you want to get rid of that 6, opposite of a division is multiplication. But if you want to get rid of a negative with the x, you multiply by a negative 6. So then 6 cancel, the negative and the negative cancel. Do you see now how x is by itself? X is isolated, negative 6 times negative 5 is positive 30. Number 3, divided by negative 3. So you times by negative 3 on both sides. Do you see the difference how number 2 and number 3, you still multiply by a negative number, but it's just the negative is in a different position. Do you see that? But you do the same thing. So then your negative 3 cancels. T is by itself. 6 times negative 3 is a negative 18. Number 4. Here, you want to get the x by itself. But do you see how there's a 3 over 5 right there? To get rid of that, you have to do this thing called the reciprocal. The reciprocal just means you flip it. So you're going to flip 5 over 3. Do you see that? Multiply the same thing on the left side. So then what ends up happening? Do you see how the 3 on top and the 3 on the bottom cancel? The 5 on top and the 5 on the bottom will also cancel. Do you see that? Now, do you see the x is by itself? So then when you multiply this, it's a 5 over 3 times negative 6 over 1. Do you see that? Gotta be careful with it. So do you see how there's a 6 and 3 on the bottom? What's 6 divided by 3?
2.
So it's a negative. Don't forget the negative, okay? 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10 over 1. So it's just negative 10. For number 5, okay, you need to get rid of that reciprocal. I want you to try it, please. Try it on your own, Grayson. Stop it with a weird noise. When you're done with that one, continue on to the next one. Number 7. You always want to identify where the letter is because those are the numbers you want to get rid of is the side where the letter is. Okay, so that's 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I want you to take a moment and review your answers for that. So let's go and take a look at number 6. Did you hear me? I said let's take a look at number 6, just specifically. Okay, so for number 6, you see the axis right there on the left side? So you want to get rid of all the numbers with the x on the left side. That's -5/6. So how do you get rid of the -5/6? What do you multiply by? What's the reciprocal of -5/6? You got to flip it. So if you flip it, what would that be? Just -6/5. The negative doesn't matter if it's top and bottom, it's still a negative. If you have a +5 over -6, that's the same thing as a -5 over +6. Do you see that? It's the same thing. Okay. So then you can multiply by -6/5 on the left side, but you have to do the same thing on the right side. Do you see that? 6 and 6 cancel because it's top and bottom. 5 and 5 cancel, so it's top and bottom. Negative times a negative is a positive, so the negative cancels. You have a positive x now. Do you see that? 3 times -6 is -18. 4 times 5 is 20. They're both even, so you can always divide it by 2. So what's your answer once you reduce it? That's your answer. Okay, we're going to move on to the next part for number 9. You can go ahead and work on number 7 and 8 on your own, okay? So let's take a look at number 9. Okay, for number 9, pay attention, please. I'm going to stop right now, and you can figure it out yourself. For number 9, you need to cross multiply them, okay? When you cross multiply them, you're first going to do, pay attention, this part right here in yellow, and then you're going to multiply this part right there in green. Do you see that? So in yellow, it'll be 7 times 2x minus 3, right? Equals 5 times 3 is 15, right? So you distribute this, you get 14x minus 21 equals 15, right? Add the 21 on both sides. You're going to get 14x equals 36, right? Divided by 14, x equals 36 divided by 14. They're both even, so you know you can always divide it by 2. Half of 36 is going to be 18. Half of 14 is 7. That's as low as you can go. So if you don't write this into a proper fraction, 7 times 2 is 14. So you should have 2, 4 over 7 equals x. This is your answer. That's number 9. Now, I want you to try number 10 and number 11 on your own. Please. Okay, let's go over number 10. So for number 10, you remember you cross multiply. So when you cross multiply right here, we're not doing that right now. We're not doing that right now. For the green one, it's going to be 10 times x plus 8 equals. Take a look at the yellow. 9 times 4x. Distribute 10x plus 80 equals 36x. Which one has a smaller x? You always move the smaller x. Which one has a smaller x? That part cancels. You're left with 80 is equal to 26x. Divided by 26 on both sides. X is now by itself. 80 divided by 26, they're both even. So you could divide it by 2. Half of 80 is 40. Half of 26 is 13. That's an improper fraction. 13 times 3 is 39, which gives you a remainder of 1. So x is 1 or 3 and 1/13. That's your answer. I want you to try number 11 on your own. Okay, let's take a look at number 11. So for number 11, you're going to go ahead and multiply this part right here, which is 4 times -x minus 2. If you distribute that, it's -4x minus 8. Then you're going to multiply that with this part right here diagonally, which is going to be 3 times x plus 7. Once you distribute it, that should be 3x plus 21. You always move the smallest x. In this case, it's going to be a negative 4x. Opposite of a negative 4 is a positive 4. So you add it to both sides. That part cancels. Bring down the negative 8. 7x plus 21. Next step. Step number 2. You want to subtract the 21. Because remember, once you get the x on one side, you want to get rid of the number. Minus 21 on both sides. When you do that, 21 cancels, bring down the 7x, you get negative 29. Third step, divided by 7. When you do that, this part cancel, x is equal to. Now your answer is going to be negative. Now you know that 7 times 3, 4 is a 28. When you subtract it, you get a 1. So x is equal to negative 4 and 1 over 7. That is your answer for number 11. Okay, so for number 12, we're going to go ahead and multiply diagonally, which is going to give me a 7 times 2x plus 4. If you distribute this, it's 14x plus 28 equals, you're going to now multiply across, which is going to be a 2 times 5x minus 3, which is a 10x minus 6. Step 1, you always subtract the smaller x's, so 10x, subtract it. When you do that, realize that you are going to now cancel the 10x, bring down the negative 6, positive 28, 4x. Step number 2, you're going to go ahead and subtract the 28 on both sides. When that happens, 28 cancels, bring down the 4x, which is a negative 34. Third step, divided by 4 on both sides. When you do that, x equals 34. Your answer is a negative because it's a negative 34 divided by positive 4. 4 times 9 is 36. That's too big. So 8 is a 32. So negative 8, 2 over 4, which is the same thing as negative 8, 1/2. And that is your answer. Okay, so with that said, you have a lot more here, which I'm just going to very quickly go over because I won't have enough time to go over all of this with you. It's a lot of homework. So I'm just going to have you pay attention. For number 13, first thing you want to do, I'm going to write down the steps. You want to add 3 over 5 on both sides. When you add 3 over 5 on both sides, that part cancel. You bring down the 2y. On the side, you want to show your work. 1/2 plus 3 over 5. Lowest common denominator is 10. So what you want to do is you want to multiply this by 5, which is a 5 over 10. This by 2, which is a 6 over 10. And that's 11 over 10. I know I'm going kind of fast. I'm sorry, but we have to go this fast because I don't have enough time to do this later. Then step number 2. You're going to divide it by 2 on both sides. So when you divide it by 2 on both sides, that 2 cancels. On the side, make sure you're doing the work. It is 11 over 10 divided by 2, right? Which is the same thing as times 1/2. Remember how you have to flip it when you change it from a division to a time? So then when I look at this, that's going to give me 11 over 20. So that's my answer, 11 over 20. If you have time, you can check, but chances are you probably won't have time. For number 14, first step, you want to add 2 over 5 on both sides. So when I go ahead and do that, plus 2 over 5 plus 2 over 5. That part cancels, bring down the y. On the side, you do negative 1 over 3 plus 2 over 5. Lowest common denominator in this case is 15. 3 times 5 which is a -5/15, times by 3 top and bottom, which is a 6/15, 1/15 is what you have. Okay? And that's it. You don't have to divide anything. It's just y equals that. Okay? 15. Okay? If you take a look where the t is, you want to get rid of the t, but you have the 1/4 and the 1/2. First step is you want to subtract 1/4. That part cancels. You bring down the 1/2 t is equal to. On the right side, you want to do 4/1 minus 1/4. Your lowest common denominator in this case is 4. So you need to multiply by 4 just on the first fraction, which is going to give you a 16/4 minus 1/4, which is 15/4. Step number 2. You want to multiply everything by 2/1 because that's a reciprocal of 1/2. When you do that, what ends up happening is a 2 and the 2 cancel, 1 and a 1 cancel. T is then equal to 15 times 2 is 30, 4 times 1 is 4, but both of these are even, so 30/4 is going to give you a 15/2, which is either 7.5 or 2 times 7 is 14, so x is equal to 7 and 1/2. Okay, that's number 15. These questions are really hard. Does she expect you to get this done by tomorrow? Do you have math tomorrow? Oh, okay, so you have some time then, right? So I'm actually just gonna stop right here because you have 3 more questions on the bottom. And then you have a bunch of questions on the back here, which is, oh my gosh, it's a lot. Actually, you know what? I can't. I have to do at least one more. I'm gonna pause it right here. I'm gonna have you just go ahead and practice